Hello, good evening, and welcome to Joy News Prime, live from our studio here at Kokomlemle. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, and around the world on myjoyonline.com. I am Samuel Kojo-Brace.
And I'm Noella Karaniali. Coming up, over 60 defaulting radio stations get 30 days amnesty following a directive by President Mahama to the National Communications Authority to immediately restore broadcast services of the affected stations after they were shut down.
In line with this directive from His Excellency the President, the Ministry and the NCA have granted a further 30-day grace period to all defaulting entities.
But the minority in Parliament is accusing the President, John Dramani Mahama, of overstepping his bounds by intervening in the NCA's decision to shut down radio stations.
Why should Asase Radio be denied the opportunity to broadcast? Why? Why will Wontumi be denied opportunity? Why is Wontumi suffering?
Also, end of an era, President Mahama terminates a long-standing contract between Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion Ghana Limited, which has been in place for nearly 20 years.
We have details as investigative journalist Manasseh Azure calls for some tougher actions in this particular contract.
Officials who have handled these deals have been compromised and they are not prepared to do what is right.
Potential breakthrough for nurses and midwives strike following interventions of Parliament's Health Committee.
We had a very fruitful deliberation with the nurses. The nurses are going to have a session with their council, and we are hopeful for a good news.
The minority in Parliament has launched a scathing attack on the President, accusing him of overstepping his bounds by intervening in the NCA's decision to shut down radio stations. They claim this move is a brazen assault on the authority of the independent constitutional body. There was shock and panic when the Ministry of Communications announced their sudden shutdown. But just when it seemed like the plug was about to be pulled on these stations, President Mahama stepped in with a lifeline, a 30-day amnesty to pay their fees and get back on air.
Well, the minority in Parliament was quick to cry foul, accusing the government of heavy-handedness and political witch hunting. James Aveji has more in the following report.
The Minister for Communications, Sam George, in his urgent statement on the floor of the House ruled out any form of political witch hunt in the closure of the 62 radio stations. According to him, these radio stations have engaged in varied infractions ranging from operating without licenses and some operating with expired licenses.
Group 1, 28 FM radio stations who are currently operating with expired authorizations. Despite the NCA instructing these stations to cease operations in 2024, several of the stations have continued broadcasting.
The Minister for Communications, Sam George, in his urgent statement on the floor of the House ruled out any form of political witch hunt in the closure of the 62 radio stations. According to him, these radio stations have engaged in varied infractions ranging from operating without licenses and some operating with expired licenses.
Group 1, 28 FM radio stations who are currently operating with expired authorizations. Despite the NCA instructing these stations to cease operations in 2024, several of the stations have continued broadcasting unlawfully. These actions constitute a violation of Section 2.4 of the Electronic Communications Act 2008. Group 2, 14 FM stations, which were issued notices of revocation for failure to establish operations within the required 2-year period following the grant of their authorizations. These stations later requested technical inspections but have not completed the process and have continued to broadcast. Group 3, 13 FM stations which applied for authorization to continue operating and have been issued provisional authorization but have not settled the provisional authorization fees in full. The last group of stations that we took action on this morning are 7 FM stations who have paid their provisional authorization fees but have not yet received final authorization in fulfillment of the technical and regulatory requirements under Regulation 54 of LI 1911.
He then made the big announcement that the President, John Mahama, has directed that all of these stations be given a 30-day amnesty to correct these infractions.
Mr. Speaker, a few minutes ago, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President, directed that the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation work with the regulator, the NCA, to allow all the affected radio stations some additional time to correct the identified breaches within a defined time frame. Those who fail to do so shall have their authorizations formally revoked under the law. In line with this directive from His Excellency the President, the Ministry and the NCA have granted a further 30-day grace period to all defaulting entities.
The matter then degenerated into a political conversation. The minority leader, Alexander Apenyo-Markin, for instance, dug into the archives of Parliament and pulled out the position of the now communications minister, who was then a ranking member on the communications committee's position on the same issue when it came up under the previous government. He established strongly that some of these stations, for instance, the Wontumi media, have been targeted by government.
Mr. President, clemency is a belated thing. It's because of the public backlash. I would want the NCA and the ministry to be strongly guided by Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution. If yesterday we were allowed on the rooftops that it is not good to suspend or shut down, then today let us maintain the same principle and say that we would rather have an administrative engagement. Why should Asase Radio be denied the opportunity to broadcast? Why? Why will Wontumi be denied opportunity? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? Why is Wontumi suffering? What has Wontumi done? What at all has Wontumi done?
And as for His Excellency the President, I'm surprised that you will say that he is being magnanimous because of public backlash. When did the suspensions take place? And when did that public backlash occur that I sitting here haven't heard? When did that public backlash occur? The suspension occurred at what time of the day? At 10 a.m. this morning. And the clemency came at 12, within 2 hours. Who could have exercised such public backlash that His Excellency the President will be magnanimous to the extent that he is being?
The Communications Minister, Sam George, has urged all these radio stations to take advantage of the 30-day amnesty to correct the infractions to prevent a total shutdown after the expiration of the ultimatum. From Parliament House here in Accra, I am James Savage for Joy News.
Now, tonight, the plug has been pulled after years of allegations of inflated payments and mounting pressure from civil society. The Office of the President has officially terminated a long-standing contract between the Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion Ghana Limited. In a letter dated June 11, 2025, signed by the Secretary to the President, the Jubilee House ordered a full audit of all payments made to the sanitation firm. The decision follows a petition by investigative journalist Manasseh Azure sent on April 27, 2025, demanding the termination of the contract. Now, Cabinet has now ordered that all future sanitation contracts must go through competitive procurement, and the statement reads as follows.
I refer to a letter dated April 27, 2025. On the above matter, His Excellency the President acknowledges the serious concerns raised in your letter and responds as follows. One, in terms of expiration of contract, the contract between Youth Employment Agency, YE, and Zoomlion Ghana Limited has expired and will not be renewed. It continues to say that, and it gives another point about the audit of payment and claims. It says all payments made to Zoomlion after the contract's expiration will be thoroughly audited. No further payment will be authorized without proper verification, and any unauthorized payment will be recovered.
Now, it continues to say that on conduct competitive procurement, it says Cabinet has directed that future sanitation contract be subjected to a competitive procurement process rather than one national contract. There should be regional or district-based tenders for private firms. Now, this could reduce cost through competitive pricing and stimulate innovation as companies compete on service quality to secure contract. And of course, a cabinet subcommittee will develop the modalities for implementing this, and also on sweeper fees, it says, but probable cost savings, the government intends to increase the sweeper fees to a more livable income. And yeah.
On the other contract of fumigation, says contracts that have not been performed satisfactorily will be reviewed and, where appropriate, terminated in accordance with their terms and upon the advice of the Attorney General. Please accept the assurances of my highest esteem. And this letter was signed by the Secretary to the President there. He issued his letter to Manasseh Azure on the petition that he sent to the presidency.
But investigative journalist Manasseh Azure says termination of the contract isn't enough. He wants those involved in the contract continued renewal penalized, and he spoke on the marketplace.
Government officials who have handled these deals have been compromised, and they are not prepared to do what is right because there have been enough pieces of evidence. Remember the JIDA report President Mahama commissioned in 2013, page 131 of that report, which is online, outlines the anomalies with this contract. So it is it's been late, but better late than never. And all the same, I'm grateful to President Mahama that he's taken this step.
Well, let's bring in a former DCE during the Kufuor era who understands this, how this works, Kosi Baini. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. Now, the president says that the contract should be given at the regional level or the district level. For how you understand the operations of how the district operates, where should this be, regional or district, and why?
But bringing the thing down to the regions and to some extent the district is far better. Look, to have one company doing all these things throughout the country is difficult. Because, look, let me take Ahanta West, for example. If you take Agran Kwanta, you take Apawa, take Abora, and take maybe Lucia or Disco, these are the only places that you can see some work being done by the Zoomlion. The remaining communities of over 133, we don't have Zoomlions there. But they are being charged for their operations in the district. How that works very well. So for the termination, we need, yes, re-terminate it, but we need also to take another look at how we can manage this sanitation problem. Those days, when I was a kid, the worst you can do is to leave your junior siblings' stool unattended to until your mother comes to make it. The kind of thing your mother will do to you, you will never regret. Today, the whole place is filthy. Meanwhile, Zoomlion is supposed to be working. So what do? We also need to we need to take a look also at the sanitation staff at the assembly. What do they also do? So we have a serious problem. We need to get the sanitation staff to work, and we need to get the things done in all the communities. Almost every community is filthy.
So what do you expect? What do you expect for these assemblies or government in general to do? I mean, as it's set out to re-award sanitation contract.
Yes, this time they should not only award a contract, but their staff should be made to work. The sanitation staff in assembly should be made to work. Because if they are doing their work very well, then there will be fear in the citizenry. Once we create all those first. But if you know that you make this thing, if you generate any refuse anywhere, you'll be arrested the next time and sent to court. You will not do it. So the assembly staff must be on their feet. They should be working. They should be seen to be working. While whoever takes care of the sanitation in terms of the absence of Zoomlion, if there are other agencies in the region or the district, also do their work. Otherwise, we cannot get anywhere.
We know that Zoomlion has subsidiary companies in the regions, so they can bid and win. That can be done, right? But or you think they should be made to stay away from this contract at the assembly level?
Well, if they have some subsidiary company, then they may not carry the name Zoomlion.
Sure, yes.
They may have different companies. But what I'm saying is that, or what the government is trying to do now is that you can't have Zoomlion taking care of all the districts in the country. How many districts do we have now? They cannot.
Okay.
So if there's some competition, if there's another company that is taking care of Antawe, if there's another company that is taking care of Sekendi, Takradi, then there will be competition. If you don't do your work well, you can abrogate the contract even within the first year. So we need to get everybody doing its work very well. Okay. But most importantly, we need to get the assembly staff who are paid by the government to do their work and do them work very well.
Okay. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here tonight.
Now, let's now go back to our NCA, our earlier NCA story that, you know, obviously they shut down radio stations, and speak to the executive director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima. You're welcome, sir. If you can hear me, what do you make of today's happenings?
I think that what has happened is essentially a process of regulatory enforcement. And I think that laws are made to be complied with. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need for laws to be made. Media freedom is important, but the freedom and the independence of the media is also better guaranteed when there is a regulatory framework guiding it. Otherwise, tomorrow morning, I can just set up a network and grab 99.7 and start broadcasting on it, because there would not be regulations and I wouldn't be sanctioned for it. And anybody at all can then grab any frequency that they want to grab and then start broadcasting. I think that is why the laws are made. And people who decide to operate radio stations or utilize any of our the frequency, which is a national resource, need to go by the law. And the law exists to be complied with, as I've said before. So I think that what is important for me is that it should be done in a very transparent and a fair manner, and not like what we experienced in 2019, which was basically a politically motivated exercise to shut down opposition voices, shut down media outlets that are aligned with the opposition, and leave those that are aligned with the government with the same infractions continuing to broadcast.
I mean, the minority leader, Honorable Alexander Fenyomakin, is suggesting that a more administrative process is used in rectifying issues like these instead of a complete shutdown. Sounds good to you?
Well, my reading of the statement was a suspension for these affected media houses to regularize the breaches that they are involved in and get back to broadcasting. My understanding was not that they've been shut down permanently as was experienced in 2019. Again, I think that our politicians need to be consistent if our country would develop. In 2019, when it was done, and even in a very bad way, because as I said, it was clearly a politically motivated action, my good friend, Honorable Afenyo-Markin, was in Parliament. He never spoke about it. He didn't find any problem with it. And so today, if it is being done, and for me, as I've said, what is important is that is the law being enforced in a fair way, in a very transparent way? If so, yes. And if anybody has a problem with enforcement of the law, and particularly if it's a member of Parliament, then one will begin to question the relevance of Parliament, because we all know that the primary responsibility of Parliament is to make laws. And if the laws that are made are not meant to be enforced or complied with, then what is the use of Parliament? Or what is the use of a parliamentarian for that matter? So I really struggle to understand where he's coming from or his position on this matter.
What do you also make of the president intervening? Is that a way to go?
I think so, because the president has the liberty to direct his ministers on courses that they take. And on this occasion, the president saying that, look, I think NCA and the ministry should give them a certain time frame within which to try and remedy the situation, for me is good. And not to say, well, it's a blank check, let them continue to operate and do whatever they want. Because as far as I understand, some of these media houses were in breach of their authorization conditions way back in 2022. They were written to on different occasions, and they decided to ignore. Maybe because they thought, well, they were well connected and they could do things with impunity. And so, yeah, the president has directed, I hear the minister saying he's giving them 30 days to try and remedy the situation. I believe that within that period, it should be possible. And those who would have issues, genuine issues, possibly can sit with the authorities and then discuss the way forward.
Thank you so much, Suleiman Abrahima, for speaking to us this evening.
Well, away from that, Chairman of Parliament's Health Committee, Mark Keta Nawani, and Ranking Member Dr. Nana Ayuefriye are cautiously optimistic about a potential resolution to the ongoing nationwide nurses and midwives strike, following an extensive meeting between the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association leadership and the Health Committee. Both parliamentarians expressed hope for a positive outcome. Speaking to journalists in Parliament, Dr. Ayuefriye described the meeting as fruitful, suggesting that a breakthrough might be imminent, potentially signaling the end of the strike that has disrupted healthcare services across the country.
Committee, we were joined by the majority leader. All the stakeholders that we invited were here. We had a very fruitful deliberation with the nurses. The nurses are going to have a session with their council, and we are hopeful for a good news. There's no other news again. We are done. Thank you.
Now, Chairman of the committee, Mark Keta Nawani, says they are hopeful the Nurses Association Council will take on an ultimate decision to call off the strike.
The Bushapenians to send you to go and lead a discussion. You have to bring back the information to them first before any other issue can come out. So at this juncture, I know that you want some information more than this, but let's just exercise patience.
Do you get the indication? Do you get the indication that they will call it off? If you get the indication.
No question. No comment. No comment now. No comment.
Now, in a related development, some healthcare facilities under the Christian Health Association of Ghana, CHAG, have recalled striking nurses to cover shifts, offering additional remuneration as an incentive. While some nurses have returned to work attracted by the extra pay and increased shifts, others have declined the offer. choosing to continue their strike action. Love FM's Clinton Yeboah has been engaging some nurses at some hospitals and joins us with more on this one. Now, Clinton, did the nurses tell you what exactly is in the agreement that made them return? Well, Clinton, if you can hear me, we want to find out from you what the nurses told you is in the contract that got them to return. Okay, I find some technical challenges in connecting to Clinton from the Ashanti region there.
Now let's go to the Ahafo North Southeast District, where the health director has decried the shortage of nurses and midwives in the area, adversely impacting healthcare delivery. According to Priscilla Sarkodie, health facilities, especially the CHPS compounds in the district, are unable to operate at full capacity due to shortfall in health professionals. She says support from allied health professionals and technicians can significantly enhance service delivery. Here's a report.
Ahafo North Southeast District harbors some of the deprived communities in the Ashanti region, including access to health care. District Health Director Priscilla Sarkodie says shortage of health professionals and access to services like the internet make work difficult. She also noted that poor road conditions hinder the transfer of patients from home to health facilities and the ability of caregivers to reach out.
Human resource challenges, as we don't have enough nurses and midwives working at the various shift compounds, and other support staff, and other technical areas that also we need other people also to help us. You know, the nurses cannot work alone, they need other support staff. The allied health workers as well don't have, especially also we don't also have access to internet accessibility. You know, most of our works that we normally we use our internet to also send reports. So internet accessibility is very difficult. Hence, for some of the reports have been delayed when maybe we should send it in a timely manner. It affects us. Network access. The poor road network also affects our work. It's also a part of things that we also lack logistical supports. As you all know, Oliver Twist always asks for more, but the other ones that we are having, at least we are trying to improvise some areas, but other ones we will need the specific equipment to work with, such as bed. You know, bed you can't improvise. So at least if we might get some help from other areas concerning this logistical support, we'll be very happy.
She was speaking at an event to commemorate International Nurses Day on the theme Strengthening Leadership for Quality Healthcare and Global Impact. Meanwhile, a leader of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association in the Ashanti region, Philemon Edu Brimpong, wants the Health Minister Minta Akando to resign from his position for failing to address critical issues of the sector.
The Health Minister's position to say that retired nurses and midwives should come back and take care of Ghanaians. Those who are retired, nursing is very, very important, and it's scientific-based, evidence-based. Nurses go through training every year. They renew their pins every year, which is even part of the reasons that we are on strike. The renewal of our professional license. Now, those who have stayed in home for 5 years, for 3 years, for 2 years, they are not having their knowledge up to the task. Their knowledge is not up to the standard now for them to call on them to come and take care of the sick. Based on this, we are seeing that the health minister doesn't actually know what he is doing. He is not prioritizing healthcare in this country. It's something that we have sat down to analyze, and it's not too late for the health minister to do self-evaluation and perhaps tender in his resignation, because all that he is doing to address this particular situation is only to worsen it.
David Opoku's report for Joy News.
Thanks for watching Joy News Prime. We have more for you, but those will be right after the break.
You're welcome back. This is Joy News Prime. Now, as the Basic Education Certificate Examination BECE enters its second day, a concerning trend has emerged. At least 24 pregnant candidates and 11 lactating mothers are sitting for the exam. Now, the breakdown shows 2 pregnant candidates from the Volta region and 21 from the Upper East region. A heart-wrenching scene unfolded at the Senior Presbyterian Junior High School Exam Center in Mampongting, Ashanti region, as a minor went into labor during an ICT paper yesterday, but remarkably returned to the exam center today, still recovering. Now, to actually continue her papers as well. Now, this resilience in the face of adversity is truly inspiring, and my colleague Irabna Kwe has more in the following report.
The girl, who had reportedly been out of school for weeks due to her pregnancy, was convinced by her head teacher to take part in the exams. But during the ICT paper on Monday, she asked to be excused to use the washroom. It was there that she went into labor. A policewoman escorting her quickly raised the alarm. She got support from community members who helped her deliver safely in one of the offices at the exam center.
If you run and banana, na anything run, you so by be crass or
She's my landlord's daughter. We saw her coming to write the exam. We saw her again use the washroom and she couldn't walk when she came out. I realized she was in labor. I rushed there and it was true. The baby's head was coming, so we assisted. We went there to assist her and the baby was born. We can't cut an umbilical cord unless a doctor. She wasn't prepared before coming, so we were using dusters. They brought a cloth. We put the baby on her stomach, wrapped her in a cloth and put her in a car. I called her mom to inform her of what had happened. The head pastor in charge of Asanua Presby Church, Reverend Kennedy Opoku, intervened and rushed the girl to a private hospital due to the absence of health workers in government hospitals.
I thought it expedient to send her to the hospital instead of letting those who are around to come to her aid. Since nurses are on strike, so we thought it wise to go straight to the private hospital so that they will attend to her. On arrival, they just came to the car and then they helped her out.
Despite the ordeal, the young mother returned Tuesday morning to continue with the rest of her papers. School authorities, prioritizing her safety and dignity as a minor, denied any media interaction. Answering to the question as to whether provisions are made in cases of similar situation, the Deputy PRO for the Ghana Education Service, Elizabeth Mafu, who has served in the Mampongting district for over 15 years, said,
for the time I've been working as an officer in the GS, no. This is my first time of observing such thing. Yesterday, we thought today she couldn't make it to the exam, but fortunately, today he is here to write the exams.
Officials say the teenage mother is in stable condition and arrangements are being made to ensure her comfort and safety throughout the remaining days of the examination. Reporting for Joy News, Irabna Akwe, Kumase.
Now, Martina Budri also joins us from the Northern region, where 8 students were involved in an accident today. Martina, 8 of the candidates were involved in an accident on their way to write BECE today. Tell us more about these incidents.
So these children were from Warbo coming to Tamasco, the center, to write the exams. But halfway through their journey, they were involved in an accident. They were coming on a tricycle. We are told that vehicles do not go to that area, and so the only means of transport for these children to have come to the center was to come on a tricycle. And so whilst they were coming halfway, the steering wheel of the tricycle locked up, and then they veered off, hitting somebody who was on the motor with the wife, and then the man died instantly. The 2 children were injured, and the man's wife also got injured. They were brought to the Tamale West Hospital, where they were treated briefly. The students insisted they wanted to write the exams, and they were sent to the center. But unfortunately, they were denied the opportunity to write. As we're speaking, one, we are told, is still in critical condition. When we got to the West Hospital, we're told that he had just been sent to a private hospital for a CT scan. We are told that the coordination from his speech wasn't all that accurate. He was mixing up things. And so the doctors thought it was well for them to have further scan to determine what's happening to him. So we are told that for now, they do not know the fate of this boy, whether he'll be able to write tomorrow or not. The others, they are hoping that they'll be able to cut them to the center tomorrow to write. But for this one who is currently at the hospital, they don't know his fate yet. We spoke to one of the communication team of the NDC who is representing the MP for Sanergu, who is supervising them. And he had some few things to say.
8 students were involved. And as we speak now, 7 of them have been discharged with various degrees of injuries. And there is one person who is in a critical condition. He is still at the hospital here. And now he has been sent to a private hospital, Habana, for a CT scan on the head.
Has there been any information about her condition?
Currently, as we speak, he is still in pain. His case is still serious, according to the doctor. And so it is the CT scan that would inform the doctors their next line of action. So tomorrow we don't know the fate of this boy, whether WAEC will allow us to bring the papers here for him to write, or what will they do. Because when we got there, in fact, the WAEC officer who we were told is the controller, he came and he was asking of medical report. We said this is not a case of sickness, it is accident. And because of the doctor's strike, when we even got here, the medical superintendent was not there. So in fact, the immediate thing was just how to restore or to safeguard the health of these children. So that was what we all focused on. The doctors here were serious. In fact, so that is why I said I must recommend them. Those the nurses were on strike, but there were 2 particular nurses I recommend them because in fact they were all over doing everything possible.
Well, let's bring in Adobia Sari because she was in Accra earlier. Adobia, you were with the WAEC boss today. Was there any peculiar incident that you noticed?
Yes, Grace, we were with the WAEC boss, that's Dr. Mrs. Rosamond Wilson. We first went to Accra High, and then we went to Kanda cluster of schools. Now, at Accra High, there was no issue there. But at Kanda, we noticed that a 15-year-old boy was taken up ill this morning, and he was in the military ambulance receiving treatment. Now, this boy came in with a high temperature, and then he was vomiting. According to the military men, he has peptic ulcer. But he was able to write yesterday's papers. But today, because of his condition, he was unable to take part in today's exam. However, we were the WAEC boss, like I said, and then she had some good news for him. He said he was going to be given a clemency. This is what she had to say.
A policewoman
came across a student who has been put in an ambulance who was not well. So with that student, the doctors will give us doctor's report on him. He will be taken to the hospital and then we will give him clemency. Clemency is a method that we use for candidates who are not able to write the exams when they during the writing of the papers, they get sick. Clemency doesn't mean rewriting the papers. It is a method, a statistical method that we use. It is called prediction of scores.
Now let's move away from that, and a major revamp is on the horizon for legal education in Ghana. The government is gearing up to introduce a groundbreaking bill in Parliament in August that could significantly alter the landscape. Now the proposed legislation aims to strip the General Legal Council of its exclusive control over professional legal training, paving the way for new players in the sector. Now, this bold move is expected to spark intense debate about the future of legal education and training in Ghana. Now, will the General Legal Council's long-standing monopoly over the professional training be justified, or will new entrants bring much-needed innovation and diversity to the field? The outcome will have far-reaching implications for aspiring lawyers and the legal profession as a whole. Now, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Sremsai spoke on PM Express.
The bill is ready. So these are some of the things that the bill would be introducing.
So the General Legal Council then becomes the administrative body.
Definitely.
For all they sort of supervise all the universities running the LLB course and then the professional course.
Yeah. So actually, there's going to be a decoupling of the. Currently the General Legal Council is responsible for legal education. And then professional standards. There's going to be decoupling of that. So there will be a different body which will run the legal education aspect and will be responsible for calling persons to the bar. Then there will be another body that will be responsible for maintaining standard once you are called to the bar.
So that the GLC will remain. And their focus will just
exactly.
On the
so by the educational function will be taken and given to
we're creating a new institution.
A new institution too. Yeah.
But when do you expect that it will go to Parliament?
We are in this June.
Yeah.
By August,
we should go.
We should believe.
I mean, your expectation is that
by the end of this year.
This year.
Yeah. By the end of this parliament sitting, it should be.
It should be passed.
Now, for years, they have lived in a cycle of fear and uncertainty, sleeping and waking to the sound of crashing waves, not knowing if the sea will claim more of their land or not. In Ketu South, Keta, and Anlot District, communities have long battled the encroaching tides, a fight made harder by the unforgiving hand of climate change. As part of the Joy News German Embassy Climate Talks, our next stop is Keta, the heart of Ghana's coastal struggle and resilience. Emefa Atiamwa Eli has been speaking to resident and local leaders as we focus on, quote, promoting indigenous knowledge in coastal resilience, unquote.
Twice a year, they brace for impacts enduring weeks of flooding that uproot homes, destroy livelihoods, and deepen despair. Today, hundreds remain displaced, climate refugees in their own homeland. But in the face of adversity, how are these coastal communities adapting? How resilient are they? And what traditional knowledge are they drawing on to protect their future?
What structure are we going to use to protect ourselves from the sea? The best thing is the brick. You see, it's the only brick can protect it. Nothing again. There's nothing. Are you going to use branches, coconut branches to protect yourself along the seabed? No. The best thing is the brick. But here is the case. The sea doesn't want even to see the brick at all. It breaks all every time into pieces.
This problem started all the way back in 2021. So up to now, you can see the number of people who are rendered homeless. Yet, whatever they are calling for, that the sea defense project should continue, doesn't continue. So I will talk about thousands of people who are rendered homeless without any help. When you talk about relocation, you would not relocate anybody in Agavaji community, well as the Asalakope and then Amocheno. So people, whatever we are doing is that to talk to them, to sleep with their neighbors.
Climate change has become an undeniable part of reality. Yet, conversations around adaptation and resilience remain far from the average person's daily considerations. But at what cost do we ignore it? And how do we ensure that communities start to rethink how to live with and not against nature? On June 13, 2025, Joy News, in partnership with the German Embassy, will be in Keta, engaging residents in a conversation dubbed Promoting Indigenous Knowledge and Coastal Resilience, because the time to act is now. Amafa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News. Keta.
Now let's turn our focus now to the church, as the General Secretary of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Samuel Joe Abobi, has appealed to the government to introduce morality and ethics in our basic schools to reduce indiscipline in the country.
The General Secretary of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Samuel Joe Abobi, has urged Ghanaians to place greater emphasis on morality and ethics within their communities as a means of reducing social vices. Speaking at the 2025 Ministers' Wives Conference under the theme, The Godly Woman Unleashed to Transform Her World, Apostle Abobi called on the Ghana Education Service to introduce morality and ethical education at the crèche level to help shape a better future for the country. He further encouraged ministers' wives to lead the charge, emphasizing that they possess the nurturing capacity needed to train and guide the next generation.
I think that we should start from even our educational system, the children. Even from KG, class 1, class 2, we should have a system whereby we train our children on good moral ethics. And if we start at the grassroots, they will grow with it. But where we don't have this system in our school, you realize that our people are exposed to all kinds of things. And by the time they grow, they are doing any kind of thing. But I think that government, we should go back to the system whereby the issue of morality and ethics are taught in our schools right from the beginning, from KG, class 1, and then even in our tertiary school education, we should have a kind of a course that has to do with moral, ethics, and volunteerism and things like that.
Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Eric Nameche, who also was at the gathering, encouraged ministers' wives to partner closely with their husbands in addressing challenges facing the church and broader society.
Many of you may not have traveled this way before. This might well be the first ministers-only conference you have witnessed or participated in. Let us.
And that's how we call it a day here on the Joy News Prime. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. Up next, it's Prime Business with Winston Taki. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace.
And I'm Noella Kareniali.